What's up guys, it's McNulty here. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. And we have our first balance update for July. It's kind of interesting. I was expecting this to come a bit sooner in the month, but they've decided to leave it right up until the very end. And there are some interesting bits in this balance update. So, you know, maybe the winds of change are blowing. I freaking don't know how you want to say it, but maybe things just maybe are getting slightly better. There is still a massive gaping hole that the developers at SG are completely missing. And I do want to touch on that today as well. So first of all, the great news about the July balance update is that there is no blurb on here. There are no excuses. There's no paragraph saying why we should be grateful to SG for allowing us to play their beautiful game. There is just some information about exactly what they've decided to do to the heroes. We can see they have looked to buff some of the newer event heroes and also done buffs to the costume bonuses, which we'll get to in a second, and quite a few buffs to various heroes of the month, some of which are very much needed and some of which have fallen pretty far short of where they need to be. So let's get into it. So starting off with a good one, the costume bonus buff. So I do really like this. They finally increased the costume mana generation bonus for various hero families from 1% up to 5%. This should really be done for all hero families, not just certain hero families, but we'll see what they've done. So they've increased it for the legendary heroes of the Defenders of Atlantis and Nightmares family. Nothing for the epic heroes, but then I don't think we've actually seen any epic or rare costumes from these families yet. Hopefully we will in the future. But the thing is, when you're starting to release costumes at this kind of a rate, you really kind of need to do more than just one costume at a time. As we've seen today, they've released the costume for Galapagos and nobody else. So everybody else still doesn't have a costume, which just means that by the time they eventually get round to the other heroes, it's completely outdated. So that is kind of a problem. But the legendary heroes are at least getting the treatment they deserve. So that extra 5% mana bonus is kind of a good reason to want the costume. A 1% mana bonus doesn't work. The epic and rare heroes of the Atlantis, Lagoon, Sakura, Springvale, and Morlovia family will all now get the 5% mana bonus on their costumes. Again, it just feels like it's a bit too late. And also, I think that we should see this for the 4-star heroes, especially from Season 5. Heroes like Asmia, where we've just had the costume, and Ahotep, I think, was the last one where we had the costume as well. We really need to see those 5% mana bonuses in those families right from the get-go, because by the time you get there, it's already too late, like I've said. But yeah, for some of the 4-stars, it's going to really be it's a massive step in the right direction. It just needs to be spread down to all of the newer categories. I mean, this we'll get to in a moment anyway. The event hero buffs, again, we're seeing buffs to heroes that are completely like unnecessary here. These are the newest heroes in the game, the most souped up supercar heroes that we've got in Empires and Puzzles, and they've seen fit to increase their stats. Right, okay, so Humbert, he's had his stats increased. Health boosted per damage dealt has been increased as well from 15 to 25%. Again, this is kind of just a thing where I think that he hasn't been pulled for as much as possible. But I can remember doing a pretty in-depth review on Humbert, and to me, he's an insanely good hero. You don't need to touch him. Not all heroes need to be like super OP. And that's fine. I mean, in any gacha game, there are going to be heroes that are awesome, and there are going to be heroes that are kind of okay, and there are going to be heroes that are trash. But anyway, Humbert's had his stats increased. Meg Geary, again, such an awesome hero. No need, no need to increase her stats. Just look at the defense and HP stats. I mean, defense 1062, health like 2222, awesome number. But these are the base stats, guys, before you add limit breaks and emblems. And this is already probably the best healer in the game, if not one of the top 2 heroes that heal in the game. As their primary mechanic, I would say, Mariol and her are, in my mind, fighting for the top position. Maybe, Norta could be thrown in the mix as well. But again, no need for boosting her stats. They're already excellent. The passive skill has been changed from resisting attack elements to resisting defense elements, again making her a stronger defensive hero. Kind of a big one for Meg Geary. So if you are an owner of her, she just got a heck of a lot better. So yeah, massive congrats if you do have her. If you don't and you go up against her, then, flee if you have the option. Senius, he's had his stats increase as well. Again, like one of the newest heroes in the game. And also we're seeing the same with Iacantha. His Moonrise Strike has been increased damage. I mean, he's just a dominator of worlds. I have seen people go up against him. I've seen how effective his special is. And I can tell you 100,000,000% he does not need an increase to his damage. He doesn't need it. If anything, and I don't even want to say it, but if anything, the majority of these heroes need to be powered down in order to make them more sort of relevant and heroes that we can sort of go up against with some kind of hope of winning other than getting a god board, right off the bat. Iacantha, we've seen her stats increased as well. Again, an awesome, freaking excellent hero, and literally released within the last month. But she's already getting a stat increase, and she's already getting an increase on her direct damage as well. Theodosius, pretty much the same story. Defense buff increase, defense element increase from 30 to 35%. And then just stats increases across the board. I know some of them are quite low. Like in this case, there's only a few points on the attack and a few points on the defense. But yeah, it's noticeable. Trust me, it's noticeable. Every little bit of this, especially when you do it to the newest heroes in the game, is humongously noticeable. So now we'll get on to the buffs that kind of affect the majority of the player base, us guys that don't spend hundreds and thousands of dollars and pounds on this game and whatever other currencies you use. So the July Hero of the Month buff. So Athena, really actually quite a good buff. I like this because obviously it affects the costume version as well. She does have a really good and really usable costume. So the stats are kind of in line with where you want them to be. So she's had an increased damage in her regular version up to 335 and in her costume version up to 320. So this one I really do like. I think Athena definitely will benefit from this, and it will make her continue to be a really, really viable hero, not just against Titans, but also on your raid attack teams and your war attack teams. So yeah, a big tick in the right box for me there. Gregorian, he's had an attack increase or damage increase on his special skill from 455 to 500, and with the costume version from 435 to 485. So just a basic increase. It's kind of unfortunate that they haven't seen fit to do anything else with Gregorian. But you know what, like I said before, it's okay if there's some kind of lackluster and average heroes. At least you get a little bit more out of his damage now. And he really is only kind of a Titan specialist if you want to take advantage of that crit damage. I don't know anybody else that's using him for much else in any other areas. Sishat, just an insanely good hero, and actually the damage increase is really good for her. I like the HP increase on the minion and the attack increase on the minion. She does have a costume, so I think her stats are relatively relevant. But that being said, stats are just getting outdated at such a high pace recently, and that is what I really want to touch on as part of this. Is the problem with stats in this game is the older heroes, regardless of whether they have a costume or not, it really depends on when that costume was released. You have to make it to where there is sort of a flat increase for costumes right across the board. So you know that this costume is going to give you, 5% mana bonus. It's going to give you 15% defense, HP, etc. And you have to keep that the same, and you have to slow the power creep right down to where you are able to do balance updates each month, do a big balance update on a multitude of heroes as well, increase those stats, and then people will still need to summon for the costumes to get the stats to where they want them to be, but there won't be such a huge disparity as there is now, and as there continues to be with new heroes getting released. I mean, you know, in February this year, we passed 1,000 team power for the new heroes being released. We're now just about to creep past 1,100 team power for the heroes being released. And by the end of the year, we're going to be up to 1,200 team power for the heroes being released. So yeah, it's just too fast. In fact, it should be done away with in total. For any of you guys who watch the channel regularly, you'll know that I've been playing Watcher of Realms quite a bit. I do actually have quite a fun compilation video coming up, or collaboration video, that was the word I was looking for, with one of the Watcher of Realms content creators who's just been voted the best upcoming creator in Watcher of Realms. So please do look out for that. I'm looking forward to that. That should be tomorrow. And then I'll see if I can get it shared on this channel as well. But long story short, my point is, in that game, heroes that are released, the new heroes that are released, actually have slightly lower power than some of the older heroes that are released. They just have better specials. Now you can increase, you can add, obviously you can boost their stats and things like that. And that is the whole point. But quite often you see new heroes, brand new, spanking new heroes, where their stats are lower than older heroes. And when I say older heroes, I mean heroes that have been around since the beginning. Like if you released, say, Acid Fire with stats that were, you know, slightly lower than or equal to somebody like Jove, for example, she'd still be an insanely good hero. And you could still put the same kind of emblems and limit breaks and stuff like that on her. But there would be more balance in the game, and we are pushing for balance. So anyway, enough said. Let's get back to Seashat. Seashat is a great hero. She can definitely do with these bonuses, so I really do think that's a massive tick in the right box for her. Now we come along to something like Noor. So Noor is going to suffer from the fact that she does not have a costume, and that bonus to the direct heal really means nothing at all, because she's so far away from where she needs to be in terms of stat that she's still going to remain a terrible hero. Divana is going to be exactly the same. Divana was my first ever my first ever limit broken hero that I gave the first limit breaks to. Fantastic hero, great dispeller, excellent minion effect, and just stats mean that I can no longer use her. And I know a lot of you will relate to this. You've probably got tens of heroes, if not more, that you cannot use anymore just because of the disparity in stats. So Divana, definitely, she's going to get a nice damage increase, but does it mean I'm going to start using her again? Absolutely not. I just cannot use her because her stats are not where they need to be, and I'm going to need to put so many different things on her to get them even close to relevant that it is just not worth doing. Claren, again, he's going to suffer from the same problem. For Heroes of the Month, no costumes. Direct damage has been increased. Water damage increased from 210 to 325, but it is over 5 turns. So initially it looks like a good increase, but it's not a huge increase, and he needs a huge increase, and he needs better stats. We joked about Claren when he came out, running joke in my alliance, shout out to math teacher. We call him Karen because he's just so terrible. But anyway, he's still terrible, even though he's received a little bit of a buff. Kinesia, she's quite a popular one, or she was when she was released. I'd still say she is usable in certain circumstances, and this definitely gives her a little bit extra. The increase of bleed damage from 300 to 414 over 2 turns, and the extra turns against ice enemies, that is awesome. Because you can use a ailment damage booster alongside her, and she can really wreak some havoc. And she is damage to all, or AoE. So yeah, there are some good changes here, But the main thing I wanted to highlight from reading this is the stats issue. So, I mean, they're going in the right direction. You're kind of on the right path. You just need to add 2 to 2 and get 4. That is just the last part of the equation, and it is just such a simple equation. We don't need these heroes, Humbert, Megiri, Senius, and Iacantha. They do not need their stats boost. In fact, all you're doing is making it worse by boosting their stats. You should be keeping these hero stats the same. We should be seeing massive buffs to the heroes of the month in terms of their stats. We should be seeing costume bonuses for all families, not just specific or older families, but for the newer families where you're releasing costumes as well. And then you will have the answer and you will start to make people happy. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. But that is sort of my thoughts on this balance update. I don't think it's all bad. I think there are some good bits in here. But again, it's so sad that they've just fallen so slightly short of the mark. I mean, I'm glad you're trying to make an effort. And I've also heard, you know, just going on to that survey that they sent through to everybody, I didn't get one to fill in. Very unhappy I didn't get to fill one in. But I did sort of talk Claythor's ear off about my thoughts on what should be included in that survey, most of which I covered in here. But yeah, if you guys did get a chance to fill that out, I've seen a few of the questions and I've been told a bit about the survey, and it just doesn't seem like they've kind of got it right. You know, as far as spenders in this game, you'll know that, you know, spenders are spending, you know, upwards of thousands of pounds and dollars every single month, especially at the top levels and things like that. And they had limits on there, I believe, of in up to 200, 250. I mean, let me know in the comments what you guys thought about the survey, if you thought it was good, if you did actually get it, and if you had a chance to fill it in, and you know what you think they've missed as well. And then I can obviously try and keep them updated in whatever capacity they would watch these videos on my channel. But definitely let me know in the comments. I would be interested to hear your thoughts as always. Do drop us a like and subscribe to the channel. Share it with your mother, and I'll see you all again next time. Peace.